All right, guys, welcome back to The Better Us. On today's segment of Travel Couple Wisdom, we have
Sasha, Rachel.
Tell us a little bit about you guys. Like, what do you do? Where are you? Where have you been? Just let the people know.
Okay, let's do the quick intro.
Yeah, well, we both teach online for VIPKID, and then we also run our own lifestyle and travel blog called Grateful Gypsies. And then in addition to that, Sasha does some freelance writing. We travel full time. We don't have a permanent base anywhere. And we are currently in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for the summer.
Yeah, and this has been our home away from home for, this is the third year. We like to stay here for a couple months to kind of slow down and recharge and save some money and plan, our next big trip. We tend to travel for many months at a time. We've done a big trip around South America, and we've done another really big trip around Southeast Asia. So I could also mention we used to live in China for several years, and then we spent a year in Indonesia before moving to this part of the world. So,
wow. So how long have you been traveling in total?
I moved to China in 2008, and Rachel came with me in early 2010. So yeah.
How long have you been together?
We've been together for 10 years. This June, it'll be 10 years. And then this July, we will have been married for 4 years.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you.
We actually met right before I moved to China. I had already taken a job and booked a flight and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. I'm moving to Beijing. Cool. And
spectacular timing.
yeah. Then it was like a month after we met. So for that year I was in China, we were just friends. We just talked on the internet, on Skype.
We emailed a lot.
Pretty often. And then when I came back to the States to visit that next summer, that's when we started dating. And then, Rachel was like, oh, I want to move to China. So I went back and took her. And
well, there was a lot that happened in between him coming back and me saying, I want to go to China. That's kind of a long story.
That's a cool story.
People can read all about that stuff if you go to Grateful Gypsies and search back in we have like a timeline that goes back and tells some of these early stories. But
we read some of it. It's really cool. So if you guys who are watching, you want to learn more about it, definitely go. Great blog.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here for 2 hours and tell you that story, but
we'll listen to it off
got
screen.
A bunch of questions, so yeah.
Cool. So you've been traveling together for around 8-9 years then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's 1 or 2 words that you would use to describe traveling together?
Ooh, 1 or 2 words.
Pain in the butt.
I'm going with fun.
I mean, I would say it's interesting but challenging, but we enjoy it, so it's a challenge that
it's a fun challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have kind of any idea how much longer you want to be on the road? Do you have any plans to settle down anywhere at some point?
Not really.
Not
Not while we can do this,
We're kind of just going to keep this going while we can. When we were here last year, I started to get really comfortable and started to think, oh, maybe we should just get a place here. It's so nice. We have friends. And so we actually did like a proper job search and
apartment search.
Yeah, I don't know why I said job search. Apartment search. And Sasha actually found a place not far from here that was within our budget that was available. The only thing was we needed to sign like a contract and pay a deposit. And as soon as we were told that, we were like, I don't think I want to do that.
We haven't done that. We haven't done that in so long. We've just been like doing Airbnb or using Facebook groups and finding places for, short term, 1 week to 1 month. And we have a good arrangement with the owners of our place here where we like to stay in Puerto Vallarta, and they don't have us do any of that. We're friends. So we just show up and we just pay the rent. Like it's not, So when we had, but we can't stay here all year. We should say that.
Yeah, see, that's
In this place, there's other people who always reserve it for the high season, which is basically November until April.
right.
It's like a weird timeshare.
Kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
kind of.
right, yeah. So we're the low season people,
Right.
And we would love to stay in this place year round, but that's not an option at the moment. So we make, it makes us get out and try different things.
It keeps us on the road.
Yeah. So during the most recent high season, we went back to the U.S. to visit and spent the holidays with family, and then we spent some time in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. It's another popular digital nomad spot, so we wanted to try and see if we liked it there. And then we did some traveling in Costa Rica and Guatemala before we came back here. So
wow. So what's the plan after Mexico this time?
We actually
working on it.
don't really have one. This calendar year, our tagline on our blog is improvise your life. And this calendar year has actually been truly improvised.
Yeah.
Like when we went to Playa del Carmen at the beginning of the year, we didn't have a plan. It just kind of
we booked a place for a month, but that was
in
it.
the time that we were there. And then we made those plans, we did those plans, and now we're back here, and now we're back to not really having a plan again. We're going to Colorado for Labor Day weekend at the end of August.
Yeah, so we do have a flight out of here, but,
but then
That's it.
we're not staying in Colorado. So.
Right, we're not staying in Colorado. So from there, we're not quite sure what we're doing yet. We're thinking about going to Europe. I've never been.
But that's obviously
so-
pretty vague. I mean, we're not exactly sure where or for how long.
Right.
So I'm working on that. Looking at flights and starting to look at Airbnb or ask other traveling teachers if they have places they recommend. And obviously we can expect to spend a little more in Europe than we do in Mexico. So just trying to make sure we make a good plan and find somewhere that's, a little more affordable, right? So maybe more like thinking more like Romania than the UK, right? Like somewhere maybe more in Eastern Europe. So we shall see.
So is it safe to assume Mexico has been your favorite travel spot so far? Or is your favorite travel spot?
It's up there.
It's up there. It's hard to choose an absolute favorite. I also really loved traveling in Indonesia because, it's a country of 17,000 islands, and each island has a separate culture from the next.
Yeah, right. Each island's like its own country. So it's a very fascinating place to.
It's a really fascinating place to travel. The food is delicious. The people are friendly. There's all kinds of cool stuff to do. It's very inexpensive. But I think maybe like on this side of the world, we'll put it that way. On this side of the
Mexico's
world,
up there.
Mexico's really high up there.
And there's just so much to see and do here. It's also a huge country with, very diverse culture and different landscapes across the country. So, I mean, you can find just about everything here.
Yeah.
And the food is really some of the. I mean, it never gets old, and it's really hard to top Mexican food.
It is.
So.
And after living in China for 5 years, it's really nice being this close to my friends and family. Like we can just pop back up to the States if we need to. And even though we are in a different country, I've felt closer to my friends and family, like even just with the time difference. It's so much easier to keep in touch with people.
Yeah, we're on almost the same time. I mean, obviously the U.S. has a few time zones, but when we were in China or Indonesia, it was like,
it was tough.
We're waking up and everybody
going to bed.
Friends and family are going to sleep, and like, I want to go home for this wedding, but it's a $1,000 flight that takes 14 hours. So sorry guys, can't make it. So now when we're here, it's much easier to do. I was just in a wedding a few weeks ago at home, which it was much easier to fly up from Mexico than when we used to live in Asia. So that part is nice. It's nice being a little closer to home.
Since you're traveling together, you're living together, working together, everything together all the time, do you have kind of a main reason of argument? Like somebody's in your space, you like your space, you don't like your space, stuff like that.
I don't know, we're pretty good about the space thing. Like, I mean, we don't ever book studio apartments. We need If we do that, it's only for a few days and
Yeah.
we're not working. It's just like, when we're just kind of traveling. But when we're, actually moving around and working, we get bigger places. And Rachel sets up her classroom and, usually in the living room, and I put mine in the bedroom. And that way when we're teaching, we can kind of hear each other, but it doesn't really bother me or, that she's teaching in the other room.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we're working on other things, sometimes we'll go somewhere together, like a cafe or something like that. But Rachel likes going to co-working spaces a little bit more than me. So there's a lot of times when she'll go sign up at a co-working space and I'll just work at home. So sometimes there's several hours in the day where we're working on different things in different places.
Mm-hmm. I think we've done a really good idea of trying to figure out how to like create some space between us so we're not just like in each other's pockets all the time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I guess that helps, right? To balance it.
Yeah, and like we just have kind of different schedules where we teach at the same time, but then the rest of the day we have free to do whatever we want. So sometimes I'll go to the gym early and Rachel wants to work on something for a couple hours and she'll go later. And like there was a beach soccer tournament here this weekend and she didn't really care about that stuff. So I went with a friend, and then I came home and then she went out with a friend to go do something different. So
yeah, it's a bit easier here in Puerto Vallarta because we do have like a nice little group of friends here, and so he'll go out with some of like this weekend we just literally took turns. He was out
during the day and she went out at night.
And he was teaching on Friday night and I was teaching on Saturday night, and we just kind of took turns.
But that can definitely be harder when we're traveling to places that are new, like
and we don't have so many friends.
Yeah, when you're doing the nomad thing and you're moving around a lot, and you're not staying in a hostel, it can be hard, meeting people. Right. So in those instances, we do find it's a little trickier. Yeah. And that's probably why we like coming back here for at least a few months to kind of feel like home and, visit with friends here and stuff. And then it makes those times on the road feel a little easier.
Yeah.
So, Sasha, what would you say is one of Rachel's strengths when you're traveling a lot?
Actual traveling.
And then vice versa. Like, what would you say are each other's strengths?
Well, she's really easygoing when it comes to what we're doing. She's just kind of like, I'm happy to be here, and I don't really. And there's sometimes when there's some things Rachel really wants to do, but for the most part, she's pretty open-minded to whatever experiences come our way, and not having to make too many detailed plans, and even just like going out to eat, she's just kind of like, whatever, if I walk by a place and it smells good, we'll go there. She's not too picky, which, I mean, some people, can be very picky and very specific about things they want when they're traveling. And that's hard when you're traveling a lot.
Yeah.
So
and you, Rachel,
nice
what would you say?
do that.
Sasha's an amazing planner. And I think that's one of the reasons why we travel so well together, is because I'm so go with the flow and like just really don't care all that much. Like, I'm really happy to just be traveling. I'm really happy to just be traveling with Sasha. So whatever we do is going to be awesome. And then Sasha loves to plan, and he's really good at planning. And like, he's great at finding like places for us to stay. He's really good at finding reasonable flights in a way that makes sense. Like, okay, so there's this flight to this flight that's really cheap, and then from there we can take this flight.
Sometimes
here
it's not a direct
really
flight.
cheap.
You got to book 2 different tickets.
Yeah, so we get to spend a little time in an extra place. And I think that if I were bigger on planning and had like stronger opinions on what I wanted to do, I don't think it would work quite as well. But because I am so good with the flow, and because he is so good at planning, it works.
Every couple we've interviewed actually has the one planner and one not planner. Even for us, she's the planner.
Okay.
So
it's funny how that works.
Yeah, it works. I guess it works well that way.
Even though you get mad at me.
Because you don't remember anything.
I'm old.
So we talked about the strengths. What would be a weakness of each one?
Oh boy.
No taking this outside.
You want to go first? You want to go first?
Well, I think sometimes Sasha gets a little anxious about trying to make our plans. Like if there are too many options and he can't decide which one is best, he'll get a little anxious about it. And I'm like, 3 deep breaths. It's okay. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's true for sure. Something you always have to think about, especially when we don't have plans. Like right now, I know what we're doing in September, so it does, it takes a lot of time and effort. So yeah, it can make me a little anxious for sure. Rachel's weakness, she's not good with money.
Oh, no, I'm really bad with money.
She just go out and spend all her money and be like, oh, where did it go? What happened?
Well, I feel like in most couples, like the men are just giving the women the money and saying, here, you take care of this. No, in this relationship, it's quite the opposite. I'm like, here's my money, take it. Don't let me spend it all.
Don't let me see it because I'm going to spend it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess.
And it's not even like I go shopping a
bunch. No, she doesn't.
Like I'm not going out and spending money on frivolous things. I'm just bad at keeping track of it.
Right.
I think
bad at making a budget.
Yeah, making a budget. Yeah, I'm really bad at that.
Yeah, I learned it with him actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was bad.
I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're always traveling and you're like, okay, now I'm using pesos, and then I'm using the quetzales, and then I'm using the colones, and then now I'm using pesos, but in Colombia, and it's a different peso.
Yeah, Sasha's really good at that. He's really good at crunching numbers and figuring out how much money we can spend in this place and how much money we need to make to get us to the next place, kind of thing.
Oh, that's good. At least somebody's that in a relationship. That's always important.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
What is something you appreciate, since again you're traveling together and living together and working together, is there something you appreciate about each other, like one thing the other one does that you're always like, God, I'm so lucky?
His planning and number crunching skills. Hands down. That's really the only way we're able to keep doing what we're doing is because of his planning and budgeting skills.
Yeah, and I guess Rachel's quite social and always interacting with people on through our blog or theirs, or we've done a few different podcasts, and we're both in a lot of Facebook groups, but I'm not super active. So, thanks to Rachel being very social and open to meeting people, it's helped us make friends, and it's helped me find some writing jobs, and helped us get grown our blog through these interactions with people. So that's something that maybe I am social, but as far as being social on the internet, I'm not very good at that. I just kind of work and then watch YouTube videos or something. I don't really spend a lot of time commenting and responding and doing these things, but it helps a lot. So
I guess we'll go back to the weakness thing. When you're traveling together, but really traveling on the road, what's your biggest reason to argue?
Probably about, what we're doing and how much we're spending and that kind of thing, how long we're staying in a place and, what our plans are. And yeah, that's probably.
Well, and previously, a lot of our arguments were kind of around our blog, and me feeling like Sasha maybe didn't care quite as much as I do, or I would accuse him of spending too much time on other things and not enough time on our own blog. But that's gotten a lot better, on both parts. Just me kind of seeing the value in the other things that he's doing, and him starting to spend a little more time on our blog. So I think we're good at, I don't want to say coming to a compromise, but we're good at coming to a meeting point where we can both feel satisfied.
Yeah. And then about, planning and budgeting and stuff, we just try to, set aside some time whenever we can. If it's something, we're trying to make a plan for September and now it's May. So I don't feel like it's that important. But, when June comes around, then we'll probably have to, make sure we spend some time sitting down and looking at stuff together. And, she's very easygoing and go with the flow. But, I'm like, hey, I'm not just going to book a ticket to some random city in Europe. We should think about it together.
He's like, we need to figure it out together. And I think another thing is that for me, like, because I'm so bad at keeping track of money, I want to do all the things.
Right.
And I'm like, we can do it. We can do all the things. Just figure it out. And he's like, no, you can't do all the things.
Right. I mean, yeah, like it's tough, to plan all that stuff out. So it helps when you can talk about it and kind of get some ideas. And, when we were in South America, at the beginning of the trip, I was kind of like, all right, we need to write down the things you really want to do. Then I'll write down mine. Make a list of 10. And then we looked and they were pretty much the same. So then we said, okay, let's make a top 3, because some of these things are really time consuming and expensive. So, we have to see where our priorities are. And that really helped with that trip. And then now we're thinking, we'll go to Europe. Well, there's a lot of countries in Europe. We don't have a list of anything yet. So we're going to do that for Europe too. Kind of go through and say, what are the things we really want to do? And it'll help me plan, where to fly to and where to look for an Airbnb for a longer stay, and, help us kind of work on it together.
Cool.
So, do you?
No, go ahead.
I'll go back from the list to get my thoughts back on the other question. So do you feel like being together so much has helped your intimacy or hurt it?
Yeah, your relationship in general, your intimacy.
Because, a lot of people have 9-to-5 jobs. They see each other just when they wake up and when they go to sleep. But in this case, Nomads, you see each other a lot.
All the time, yeah.
I think we're probably a lot closer than maybe some couples are who do the traditional 9-to-5 thing and don't see each other very much. And I feel like we're probably more in tune with each other. We know better what the other wants and expects. And I feel like for that, there's less disappointment.
So, and last question, what is one piece of advice you would give to other nomad couples, especially since you're together so much? What is something you do to separate the work life from your relationship? Because if you're working on a blog together, you're teaching together, this project, that project, how do you separate the work so you still connect? Some couples have a date night or a list of things and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess we don't really do a date night. We once in a while we will go out for a nice dinner or something, or but as far as advice goes, I would say it is important to make some space and to do things that you want to do, even if your partner doesn't enjoy that, right? When you're traveling, it's hard to please. We have a lot of the same interests, but I am far more into sports than Rachel is. So last year I went all the way to Russia to go to the World Cup with one of my brothers, and Rachel just didn't come.
I stayed here.
So I think being able to allow the other person to do that, and then she went to a conference in Colombia that she really wanted to be a part of, and I honestly didn't care. I said I don't think it's worth it for me to spend the money to go there. So you go. So there were these 2 different trips last year where we went off to a different country completely on our own. And, it was great to talk to each other about, how's your Airbnb? And she's asking me, how was the game? I'm asking her, how were the presentations today? And, it's cool to kind of encourage those interests, even if they're not yours, right? To find the space and time to allow each other to go do those things, and not always say, we have to do this together. We always have to go here together, because sometimes you don't. Sometimes one person's not going to be interested in that.
Right. I think it's important to remember that even though you are in a relationship and you are sharing a life together and doing things together, it's important to remember that you're both 2 different people with 2 different sets of interests, and it's important to be able to do those interests, do those other things that you enjoy. And sometimes you need to travel by yourself, and I think that's good for a relationship, because like he was saying, it gives you new things to talk about.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like getting to know each other all over again in some kind of way.
Mhm. And then realizing that you miss the other person, right?
Right? It's good to miss someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that expression? Distance
Makes the
makes
heart grow fonder.
Yeah, that
The
one.
heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
Well, guys,
There's definitely some truth to that. So
some great advice. Like we love taking a little piece from every person, every couple we're interviewing, and it just we wanted that to help other couples, especially if they bump heads.
Button
It's
heads,
like the
yeah.
solutions, because every couple has their own take on how they can make it work. So it's always interesting. And
and traveling can make it, can compound the problems. It can be difficult.
Traveling can make or break a couple.
Yeah.
That's what's
Really.
like. I always recommend travel together first before getting married.
Before you get married.
Before you live together, travel,
Yeah.
take a trip together first, then move in together.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
Our first summer together, we spent the entire summer traveling around the States, going to lots of different concerts and music festivals.
Living in tents.
Living in tents and out of my car. And so, those can be like pretty uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
I mean, it was by choice.
Right.
The living out of the car. But yeah, so I think that's pretty good test, honestly.
Yeah. Or like a backpacking trip, right?
Yeah.
Where you're, going to new countries and, you don't speak the language and you don't know much about the food and you're staying maybe in hostels or, if you can't do that as a couple, and I don't know if you should really be looking to
go further,
buy a house together and get married. Maybe you just take a trip together first for anybody,
Yeah, that's a very good tip.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on today and just sharing your experience and your advice. If
You're welcome.
It's our pleasure.
everybody watching wants to learn more about them, go travelgypsies.com. Great blog. And it's gratefulgypsies.com.
Yep, and we're on Facebook, and Rachel's quite active on there. And
we've got a Facebook page, Instagram, Pinterest,
I make some YouTube videos from time to time. So
we'll
Twitter,
link them down below for everybody.
Sweet.
That way they can reach you and ask you for more advice, and maybe we'll get you back on if people really want you. If you guys have time,
we're always happy to chat travel and digital nomad life, and we tend to move around a lot. So if anybody says, "Hey, you're coming to my town," then drop us a line, because like we were saying, when we travel, it's hard to meet people. So we're always up for meeting new people and going out for a drink or exploring a new city, and it's cool getting to know people all over the world through things like this.
Yeah.
We heard them. If you see them, harass them.
Sure, it's fine.
All right, guys. Well,
okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.
Thanks for having us on. See you guys.